Old Man River, that old man river.
Yeah. I can't do it the way he does. I don't think nobody can do it the way he did it. So there. Yeah. Hello there, CriterioNate here. Oh boy, we're back at it with Mr. Paul Robeson, the number 369. This is the 4-part miniseries, the number 369, Paul Robeson tribute to an artist. Yeah, this I've been waiting for this set for a while now. I think almost ever since I started Criterion, and I was looking through. I was very happy to see a whole set dedicated to Paul Robeson and his movies. And yeah, there's 7 movies in here with a special little half-hour documentary on his life included on the first disc. And that's the first disc that we're going to talk about right now. Paul Robeson, Icon, featuring 2 movies, Dudley Murphy's The Emperor Jones and Saul J. Terrell's Paul Robeson Tribute to an Artist. So we begin with The Emperor Jones. So, Emperor Jones, 1933, 76 minutes, black and white. So it's based on an old play by Eugene ONeill, who I did not realize was a tremendous racist. Although apparently, I guess, according to Robeson's son, he wasn't really a racist. He just used the N-word because it was part of our language back then. We didn't really care. Back in the 20s, we just called whoever, and that's kind of sad, but I'd like to think that we've gotten better since then. When we haven't, but whatever. Anyway, but enough about racism. Let's talk about racism. Emperor Jones. Paul Robeson plays what's his name? Plays Brutus Jones, who is a Pullman. I think he's a Pullman reporter or something, and he's going off to work, and he works on a train, and his girlfriend is seeing him off, and he goes to the church and sings a song for them, and they're praying for him. They don't want him to get mixed up with all the city life and get all big ideas and all that. But on the train, he meets a guy, Carl, I think is his name, and Carl introduces him to dice, and once he gets to the big city, he meets he ends up steals his Carl's girlfriend away from him, and ends up playing dice and gambling and all that. And Carl is really upset by this, and so one night they're in a pool hall, and Carl and Jones end up battling each other at dice. And when Carl loses everything, Carl pulls out a switchblade and attacks Jones, and Jones gets the switchblade away from him and kills him. And at first tries to run away, but I guess is eventually caught by the police and sent to jail. And he's working on a rock pile. And while he's there, he is forced to beat a fellow inmate by his white, the white officer on law, and when he won't do it, the white officer, I think the white officer starts beating him, and Jones picks up a shovel and kills the officer, hides in the rock truck, and gets away, and he goes back to Dolly's place and asks for help. He gets a new set of clothes. He boards a steamship, and he just tries to get away. And when he sees an island, he jumps ships and swims to it, and he finds out that this is a island in the Caribbean, where this black despot is in charge of the whole island, with his assistant Smithers, who is a white man. And Jones comes in and claims himself to be this spiritual, this mystical human being, because Jones gives the despot a gun, and he shoots him, and he doesn't die, not knowing that Jones put blanks in the revolver or whatever, the gun. And so the despot, being scared by this, runs away. Jones takes over the island as emperor, and with Smithers, he ends up making money by taxing the poor natives more and, teaching them dice and stealing all their, gambling away or winning all their goods and services and all that. And so one day he goes to his throne and the natives don't come, and it's because they're all in revolt, and they go after him, and so he runs into the jungle and tries to get away from them. And there's a long scene where he sort of becomes mad and starts to sing to himself, and then he starts to see figures from his past such as Carl, and he takes his gun and shoots at them, but with every shot of his gun, it brings the natives closer to Jones, and Jones eventually just loses it, and the natives finally catch up with him, shoot Jones dead, and that's the end of the movie. So yeah, it's a very, very difficult, depending on how you feel, it can be a very difficult movie to watch, but it's a very, very, I mean, Paul Robeson, first of all, I'm a fan of Paul Robeson. I think he's a fantastic singer on that aspect, and hearing him sing in The Emperor Jones is a joy. I think he only sings 2 or 3 songs, very short songs too. He doesn't have a huge production. It's not really a musical per se, but it is still, his singing is showcased well throughout this movie. And I don't think that was the case of the original Eugene ONeill play. I think that was just something that needed to be added in the movie because Paul Robeson was known for his singing. So anyway. So The Emperor Jones, again, the language is very difficult, especially toward the latter half. The N-word is used very freely by both Smithers and Jones. Jones calls his own people that. And I'd like to think that, that kind of represents, just, the power that Jones receives as emperor, just like he just becomes mad with power. And maybe that's also just because he doesn't care. He's just this, he's become the despot. He's become this evil character, who's become drunk with power, basically, and lost sight of the big picture, which is, we gotta stick together. So anyway, that being said, again, Robeson's fantastic. The acting is great. Again, the story's a little rough. Because of that, I can't give it a fantastic. And again, the language is really hard to watch. Because of that, I'm going to give this a B+. For me personally, it is very difficult to hear that word, the N-word, thrown freely. Even if I understand it was the time, but still, that doesn't make it any easier. That being said, Robeson is fantastic in his role. He is a joy to watch. His whole scene, every scene he's in is captivating, So even when he is using the N-word, it's still a great movie to watch, for Robeson at least. For Robeson's sake, I give it a B+. And yeah, that's that. Emperor Jones, B+. The other movie, or sort of a short movie on here, is Paul Robeson Tribute to an Artist, which was directed by Saul J. Terrell, 1979, 29 minutes, color in black and white. It's a half-hour documentary about the life, just telling the life of Paul Robeson, narrated by Sidney Poitier, and it just basically starts off when he was young and how he built up. There's a lot focusing on Old Man River and how he changed the lyrics to better suit his own need. And I didn't realize this. I didn't know a lot of I knew that Paul Robeson was very outspoken in his political views, but I didn't realize how outspoken he was in Europe when he traveling. When he came back to the States, he was basically blacklisted. He came back. He was very outspoken about the way that the U.S. treated we Americans. And when he came back, a lot of people really criticized his viewpoints, and he was again blacklisted. And he had a hard time finding an audience, because so many, there were so many people who, I think he did a concert, I think, in New Jersey, and they said, when he was driving there, everybody was calling him the N-word and telling him to go back to Russia. And he sings this concert, and I guess a lot of the officers officers and people were built a circle around the stage, to prevent him from protect him from the protesters. And when he left, there was a big riot, and the police didn't do anything to stop it. A lot of African Americans were beat. And it was a very sad little bit to know. But yeah, eventually, I think at one point, no, I think that's a later, never mind. But yeah, it just basically it focuses more on, how he changed the lyrics to Old Man River, get a little drunk and you land in jail. It gets changed to show a little grit and you land in jail. And there's I'm scared of living and scared of dying, I think changed to I must keep living until I'm dying or something like that. And so yeah, he changed it to kind of fit his own need, his own personal viewpoints sometimes. Sometimes he did changed it to to help in for political points, to make a political point. So yeah, again, it's a very short, just a half hour long. Everything it is the story of Paul Robeson. They're clips from his movies, and again, it's a fantastic documentary. I would give it an A. I'm going to give it an A. It was fantastic. Sidney Poitier does a fantastic job narrating, and yeah, it was a treat. It was a very, very much a treat. And yeah, so those are the movies. Again, Emperor Jones, B+, Paul Robeson Tribute to an Artist, A. Supplements. There is a new documentary called Our Paul, Remembering Paul Robeson, featuring interviews with William Greaves, director of Psychotaxiplasm, actress Ruby Dee, who is the wife of Ossie Davis, and the great James Earl Jones, talking about Paul Robeson. It's about 20 minutes long, 19 minutes, I think. And they just talk about his roles and things like that. I think at one point, Ruby Dee mentions that Martin Luther King was very inspired by Paul Robeson and what he was doing and how outspoken he was in Europe. And so I think that inspired him to be more outspoken and, helped create his speeches. I think that's what Ruby Dee said. So yeah, again, fantastic interview with those three. And then there's another interview called Robeson on Robeson, featuring Paul Robeson Jr., his son, talking about his dad. It's about 11 minutes long. And again, it's a pretty fantastic, and again, another just fantastic interview. And so yeah, Paul Robeson icon, the first in many, and there's that. Anyway, before I go, I want to apologize for not having a review up yesterday. I'm going to rectify that by going ahead and doing Outsider now. I'm going to go ahead and knock this one out tonight. So we'll do Body and Soul and Borderline today. Yeah, yesterday I just got too busy, and I changed my plans around and decided to do it today. And I meant to get this up earlier, but plans changed again this morning at the last minute, and so I had to delay it till now. But I'm going to go ahead and do Outsider tonight, or right now, because I'm not going to have time. Originally, I was going to do Outsider tomorrow, and then do Pioneer on Friday, and then go ahead and do Citizen of the World on Saturday. But I don't think I'm going to have time on Saturday. So tonight we'll do Outsider, then tomorrow we'll do Pioneer, and then Friday we'll do Citizen of the World, and we'll be back to where we usually are. And then, of course, Sunday, Day of Wrath, and all that good stuff. So anyway, that's for me. Thank you for watching. Don't use that word. Just don't. And don't get hip to don't get hip to those city ways. They'll make you shoot it at Hants, as they call them. Anyway, that's for me. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon for Outsider, Body and Soul, and Borderline. And until then, goodbye.